Okay, welcome to part 2 of this tutorial on writing orchestral music or classical music with sound libraries. Uh, First, let me apologize for the delay on delivering this second part. I have been quite busy with with work lately, so that is the main reason why this part took so long to show. A few things that I changed since I published part one are that you are going to notice that I added a second camera so that you can actually see what I play, how I play it, and the controllers that I move. Another thing is that uh, I said on part one that I was going to be improvising something for this tutorial, but actually I am just going to be remaking an old song of mine. The reason for that is that I think that for the purpose of the tutorial, which is more about production and harmonization and stuff like that, um, it is going to be the same if we just create something new or we use something that I already know. But it's probably going to be much easier to just use a song that is already made than to write a song from scratch, because there is a lot of trial and error when you do that, and that is going to make this tutorial a lot longer than it should be. So I will try to keep it simpler and quicker in that way. Another change that I made is, if you remember on part one, I showed the reverbs that I was using, and when I started to write this tutorial, I was trying to use as much simple stuff as anyone will use, but then I changed my mind and I went okay, I'm going to use what I usually use. Like, if I am going to do a tutorial on what I think is the way to get a nice sound, I'm going to just use the tools that I use to get what I think and I hope is a nice sound. So I replace the long or whole reverb that you saw on part one with what I usually use, which is the Lexicon 224. This is a clone or a copy of a hardware device which is called exactly the same. It is made by Universal Audio, and the thing with this reverb is that you need a specific hardware interface or DSP for that. You cannot run this on just on a computer. There is a reverb that people say that is similar to this one, which is called Valhalla Shimmer. I'm going to put a link into the description of this video to that reverb. I haven't used that reverb, to be honest, so I don't know. I mean, this is what I use, and you're gonna see why in a few minutes. That being said, I'm going to be writing. Actually, I'm going to be playing a song of myself. It's a really old song that I wrote like probably 10 years ago. I decided to just remake that. Sorry, instead of writing everything from scratch. And it's a simple song, like piano starts alone, then we have a really soft string section on the background, then we have a string solo replacing the piano on the main melody, and then the piano goes back in a really soft way with the strings together in the background. I have this track here called temporary section. What I have on this track is a simple string patch, like an orchestral section, and the reason for that is we are going to be writing the string parts one by one here. Like, we are not going to be using a string section patch like this, you know. This is cool for when you want to do something quick, but if you want to get like more realistic sound, you really need to separate things. So for that, what I am using here is a library from ADIO called Agitato, which includes the main three parts of a string section, everything but the basses actually. So you have violins, violas, and cellos. And the cool thing about this library is that they give you the complete section, like the complete violin section, or they give you the DVC section, as you can see here. In case you don't know, you can Google about this stuff. I'm not going to be explaining a lot about this, but basically, an orchestra is divided in sections. Like you have the violins, you have the violas, you have the cellos, you have the basses. But at the same time, you can divide those sections in two or more parts if you want to. It's a really usual practice to divide, for example, the violins in two parts or two DVCs. That way, one part is going to be playing one note and the other part is going to be playing a different note, and the cellos are going to play in a different note and the violas are going to be playing a different note, and all the notes together form a chord. And that is actually what forms the harmony. What part of the orchestra you divide, I mean, is personal preference. You can just divide everything. You can just have the cellos divided and the violins no, whatever you want. In this case, I decided to divide the violins in two DVCs. That's why I have two repeated parts here for the violins. Then I have a part for the violas, which is not the DVC, as you can see, is the complete ensemble. And then I have the cellos, which are, again, not the DVCs, but the complete ensemble. This one patch here is the one that is linked to this track, which is the one that I'm going to be using for showing what I want to do before I do it. So all that being said, let's load the piano. Let me just load the closed microphones here. Let's close this. So I'm not going to use a metronome or a click for this track. I'm just going to play in whatever way it comes. Let me put the mixer here. So this is our piano sound. As you can hear, the raw sound is actually quite nice. This is the reason why I like this library so much. It just sounds right from the beginning, which is very important. I mean, if you want to get good sound, you need to start with sound. I mean, you can tweak things to make what you have better, but if what you have is not good from the start, it's not going to sound good. You can forget about it. Anyway, so this piano is a really soft and sweet piano. It's probably not suitable for everything, but for this kind of composition that I'm going to be playing today, it's actually quite good. I'm going to be adding a little bit of the whole reverb, and you can already tell why this reverb is so famous, because again, it just sounds right, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So you can just have this nice roomish sound out of the box. I'm not, at least for now, I'm not going to be tweaking the EQ for the piano. I'm just going to start with the raw sound and we will see what happens. So I'm going to just start recording the piano melody, which goes like this. So up to here, the piano is going to be just alone, or maybe not completely alone, but mainly alone. After this last note that I just played, the idea is that the string section is going to take over the melody, like that part. So the piano is not going to just magically disappear. The piano is going to stay there, but in a completely different way. He's going to be just doing his thing on the background, probably some chords, or probably some arpeggios or whatever, but it's going to be soft. And the piano, the point here is that the piano is not the main thing anymore. The piano is like a secondary thing now. It's just accompanying the strings. So let's just play from here, and I'm going to record after that. 1, 2, da, 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 da. Okay, so that is the main idea for the piano line. So just to give you an idea of what we are going to be doing here, my idea, let me bring this down, let me just bring this down a little bit. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, every time that you see me moving this knob here, this is actually mapped to MIDI CC1 or controller 1, which is the modulation wheel. And with this, I'm controlling the expression of the strings. So I can just have a chord. Remember that at least on the library that I'm using for the string is not just the volume, but it's actually different samples for the different articulations. So it's not just moving the volume, and you can hear clearly. Anyway, this patch that I have here, this temporary section, is just a patch to show you what I'm going to do before I do it with all the separated parts. So the idea is that we have the piano. Let me just and the strings appear here, really soft in the background. And then we have the string section coming here like you know. That's the idea. Anyway, so this concludes part 2. I'm going to be uploading part 3 really soon. With part 3, we're going to start actually writing the string parts for this song, if you want to call it that way. See you soon in part 3.